Hey folks, John Ferguson Smart here. I wanted to share today what is maybe my best tip on writing great test automation code. It all comes from not so much what you code or how you code, but how you think about the domain, how you think about the concepts that you are modeling when you write your automation code. If you've ever seen me do live coding, you'll notice I spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about how I name my tests, how I name the objects in my tests, how I name the concepts in the tests, how it reads. I try and make the code very, very readable. And the reason I do that is that what you model in your head, the way you express your concepts, the way you put them down in code, guides the way you build your automation code. I know that sounds a little bit abstract, but it is really, really practical. And I'll give you an example. If you think in terms of, I have a web page with some fields and I need to check that when I click on this button, this other button goes green, or when I enter this value, this other button is enabled. I do all these checks at that level. And I'm on this page, so I'm going to model the page. That does sound kind of reasonable. But if you think in those terms, what happens is you lock yourself in a mindset of modeling the user interface. And if you're modeling the user interface, you're locking yourself to a particular implementation of that user interface. Your code is tightly coupled, tightly bound, tied to the user interface. If the user interface changes, your test code has to change. And that's not good. That leads to a lot of maintenance headaches. That means you have to be constantly changing your tests, and your tests become very expensive. But if instead of thinking in terms of what this screen is, you think in terms of what business task am I trying to achieve? What is the user trying to do in business terms? Are they creating a new account? Are they looking up details of their bank transactions? What are they doing in business terms? And when you can model that, express things in those terms in your test. If you can write your tests in those terms, then what happens is your tests are not tightly coupled to a particular user interface. They are coupled to a business flow and business outcomes. And these are much more stable and much more robust, so they don't change as much. And so when you do that, when you can model your business flows, your business rules, your business outcomes, and then under the hood, you may interact with a user interface, or you may decide to interact with the code or with a web service. It doesn't matter. You've got options. You can do whatever you want. You can switch things in and out. And this makes your code extremely robust and extremely maintainable. One guy I was talking to recently told me about how they had totally rewritten the implementation of their application and not changed a single one of their acceptance criteria because their acceptance tests modeled the business domain and the business flows, not the implementation. And so that made it very easy to update the implementation without having to change the test code itself. With minimal changes to the test code and no changes to the actual acceptance criteria. And that's what you want. That's why it's so important to model a business domain, to model business flows. I'll talk about that sort of thing in more detail in other videos, but I just wanted to share that overall tip. It is really, really important. So that's all for today. Thanks for listening, folks.